So it looks so that may be the last we see of Thibaut Courtois in action in a Chelsea shirt. And it looks as though they are set to only receive half of what we're about to fork out for a goalkeeper who is unproven at the very top level.
No doubt there's a risk. It goes without saying. I mean, someone who hasn't played outside Spain before, who's going to come to the Premier League, that's a huge challenge. I mean, you look at David De Gea, which is a great example. When he first came to England, he struggled under the pressure of playing in the Premier League, the robustness of it, the competitiveness of it, the physicality of it. So the big question is, can Kepa, who's not big, can he cope with it? Well,
you were a keeper at Chelsea. Can you give us an idea of what sort of pressure he's likely to be under there?
Well, a lot different to where he is at Atletico Bilbao, because there it's more about survival, staying in the league. Yes, they try and finish in the Europa League sort of positions, but the expectations are more about sustainability in the La Liga. Whereas at Chelsea, it's all about winning. Every game that you play, every competition that you enter in, Emma will say this as well, with the women's team as well, exactly the same. They're expected to win every trophy that's up for grabs. So that pressure is from day one. The minute you walk in that door, starting on the training field to playing that first game.
Well, to be fair to you, Emma, you virtually did win every trophy last season.
Yeah.
So you're fulfilling your side of the bargain. But what do you make of that? And do you think it's different with a goalkeeper? The fact we're seeing the transfer record for goalkeepers all of a sudden being broken fairly regularly.
Yeah, but I think it's important that the goalkeeper is the manager's choice, and if you're going to impose a style of play which is progressive, very quick, a lot of short, sharp passing, it's going to start from the back. So, yes, he's unproven. So, of course, it's a gamble when new players are coming into the country. But there's a lot of quality players at Chelsea for him to develop, and only time will tell. But I also agree that, you know, the start may be a little tetchy, like it was for De Gea, because the Premier League is unrelenting. It's not going to give any player an opportunity to make several mistakes.
What do you make of it, Matthew?
I think it's a good point in that a manager's choice for the goalkeeper, I think, is key. And we've seen it at Manchester City, Liverpool recently, like I said, have just addressed that situation. And the City one is key, and maybe linked a little bit more to this role in that they needed a goalkeeper to be able to play with his feet, and in extreme circumstances in Manchester City. And maybe, you know, they've seen the opportunity, Courtois on his way out, to go and get somebody that they feel can fit that bill more.
Ironically, the two teams you mentioned there, in Liverpool and Manchester City, they didn't get it right first time.
No.
They've both had to go back into the transfer market and go again. So that's obviously the challenge.
I spoke to a contact in Spain tonight, and I'll be completely honest, I personally, I'm not sure I'd even heard of him. I'd probably seen his name when I was at the World Cup and he was in the Spain squad, but he's only got one cap for Spain. I said, tell me, what's he like? I said, because we know Sarri likes to play out. He said, he's not somebody who's renowned for playing out from the back. We are not talking about Alisson.
But we're talking about Spain here. I mean, how often playing out from the back in Spain are you dealing with a high press? Well,
that's the question I asked, and he said, Bilbao tend to play it long, and he knocks it long.
That's the problem, isn't it? It's coming from a club like Bilbao, who is, like I said before, it's all about sustainability in La Liga. It's about not necessarily contesting for any major honours. So therefore, they're going almost at times Route 1 football. It's about trying to get the best out of the group of players that they have. Whereas at Chelsea, it's about now dictating play. They're going to be expected to have the ball for, in the vast majority of games for the high percentages of those games. So it's a different pressure now. It's about playing, like the guys were saying, playing out at the back. Sarri wants to start playing with a goalkeeper. All phases of play at training have been that way. So it all starts with them, with a goalkeeper. So he's under a lot of pressure, a new challenge for him in his career.
And I think you have to talk about the fact that you can only sign what's available. There's no point talking about...
Joe Hart was available.
But don't you think with that kind of money, most become available?
But you're getting 50% of that back from Courtois.
Yeah.
So on some levels, it's not a £72 million investment, it's a 30+ million.
But if you're willing to spend 72 million, then you can go out and get most goalkeepers, whether or not they're, you know what I mean, that kind of money.
But can you? Who else, is available?
I mean, the talk was that they were heavily involved in heavily interested in getting Pickford to Chelsea, but Everton obviously said there's no chance. The other one is Jack Butland, who's
the question I was going to ask, why not Jack Butland?
Well, that's probably the biggest... The answer to that is more about the way they play out at the back. We've seen Jack Butland play for England. At Stoke, obviously, they don't play out at the back. They don't do a build-up. With England, I think he did it well in the friendly games before the World Cup. but he's not of that same level, calibre as, say, for example, Jordan Pickford. But then the big question is, Kepa, has he played out at the back? Does he? He doesn't obviously play out at the back with Bilbao. Is it a part of his game that he can do? I mean, I remember Jordan Pickford at Sunderland. He never played out at the back, but he's been phenomenal with his feet. He's very good with his feet. He just had to play the way that the team played.
I mean, it's interesting you say like that you couldn't get Pickford. I mean, would there be no number for him? Because for me, he fits that bill perfectly. He's just come from a huge stage of the World Cup. He's shown he can play at that level, and with his feet, he's as good as anything around. And for me, it's just really surprising that you can pay 72 million and not get anywhere near.
I mean, it's not done yet, Matty. But first of all, do we think, from what we've seen and read tonight, it's likely to happen? First of all, because it's so close to the transfer window, and also was there a degree, do you think, possibly of almost desperation from Chelsea? Because Courtois, don't forget, he only got a year left on his contract. He's made it clear he didn't want to re-sign, and so therefore they've got to get somebody in, and maybe they were really held to ransom a little on the price.
Definitely, I'm sure it's had a factor. You know, the length of contract of Courtois, the transfer window, it's had a huge impact on Chelsea's ability to maybe take their time to select and to prep to get who they want. But you know, it's just a situation they have to act on.
I think it's been boiling for a while, hasn't it, at Chelsea, because of Antonio Conte, the way that he kind of finished his time at Chelsea. It had been ongoing for quite a while. I think everybody kind of expected it in the last 6 months that something was going to happen, you know, but it didn't happen until now in the start of the new season. So I think a lot of players were waiting to see what happened with the manager.
You see that all the time, don't you? At a club, you know, the club doesn't do anything until the actual manager's gone and the new but they took so long to, you know, it was always going to happen. And it seemed to take forever for that to, you know, that could have happened before the end of last season, couldn't it? And then you've got a lot more time. Everyone knows what they're doing. It gives you that ability to.
When you talk about organising your squad, yeah, absolutely,
yeah,
it does. But I think with the way that it is with Chelsea, and it's the way it's occurred this summer, is that there was a lot of talk about Hazard possibly going, Willian possibly going, and being unhappy under the former manager. So now they've come back. Because obviously the manager, Antonio Conte's gone. They've got Maurizio Sarri. He's spoken to both Willian and Hazard. They've seen them. Williams come out and said that he never wanted to leave. I want to stay at the club. Eden Hazard's been very quiet, so it seems like that's all been sorted out as well. And I think the thought was, and the hope was, that we'll do the same thing with Courtois. He'll come back, we'll sit down with him, tell him the vision of the club and the way that the manager wants to play, and he's a big part of that.
Well, he said, I want to speak to him face to face.
That's right.
But he didn't turn up.
That's the problem. So
Which makes it difficult.
So then that ends up forcing the club's hand, doesn't it? So in the end, and Maurizio Sarri also said that he doesn't want a player that doesn't want to be here at this club.
Do you think in a wider sphere, I mean, I thought it was quite telling that Pep Guardiola, when he was with Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher, Dave Jones today, he said, I expect Chelsea to spend in the next few days. He made it quite clear he felt there was movement. Normally the managers know, you'll know who's going where and who's doing what. So not just because of your Chelsea connections, Emma, but would you not be surprised if Chelsea recruited fairly quickly and in decent numbers over the... Well, we've got less than 48 hours.
I think it's fair to say, perhaps the fact that the window's shutting earlier this year, this is the first time clubs in general are leaving it quite late.
Off the back of a World Cup.
Off the back of a World Cup. So, yeah, it is difficult because players are taking holidays and also I don't think it's that simple to sign players. It's a domino effect as well. So I think there'll be a lot of activity in the next couple of days.
I think what happens, and Emma, you'll be able to verify this as well as a manager, is that clubs know that, say, for example, the big hitters, i.e. your Chelseas, they've got money, they're prepared to buy players. The longer that the clubs hold on to players, the closer it gets to the end of the transfer window, the more they're often willing to pay. There is a risk that they may turn around and go, no, actually, we've got another target and we're going to leave. But the possibilities are there that actually the bigger clubs will end up paying that extra money to get that player and get it over the line, even if it's last minute.
Matty, when you look at the Chelsea squad, and we understand that Bakayoko is leaving as well, albeit on loan, do you think they've got enough? Do they look balanced to you? You saw them on Sunday.
They didn't look particularly balanced on Sunday. I know they're missing, you know, Willian, Hazard.
Yep. But even
without them in the way they want
players.
to play, yeah. Look, for me, they have a really great quality of squad, but it's very geared up, especially defensively, to play with a three. And for me, a big problem that Sarri's going to have is who is his centre-half partnership. We spoke earlier about, you know, can Rudiger play in a 4? Luiz, for me, is just not his best position. He just doesn't like playing as a 2. So you're then left with Cahill, Christensen. Are they going to be the 2 that can be a bit more solid and rigid in a traditional centre-half partnership, which is what he wants to play? I think it's a real problem for him in some way that they could strengthen.
I think it's tricky, though, because, you know, the managers, you know, yes, come late to the club, but you want to know that at least you're spending money on players that he can build around, as opposed to doing your business early for players that he didn't really want. So, you know, yes, they may come in late, and maybe not at all. Maybe they will come in January.
Yeah.
I also think it's important to say we have a successful academy of players and a loan system of players that may reintegrate back into the system, because Sarri has a great track record with young players, and we're seeing that already. I mean, Chelsea can have players
and
there.
that's what Chelsea need to sort of kind of look at as well. But I mean, I know, you know the blueprint of Chelsea though as well. So they are about winning titles, and they want to win now. So it's about they develop a lot of players through the academy system, not necessarily for the first team. They're obviously hoping that one real superstar will come out of it. I mean, Loftus-Cheek is one of those players that potentially could have a place in the Chelsea side this season.
Yeah, I agree. I think you look at Chelsea, and it's definitely from the academy point of view, in that they're selling a tutelage to be a player, as opposed to you're going to get enough, because they haven't. You can't back that up with past.
But we're talking about someone. Let's talk about Bakayoko potentially going on loan. Loftus-Cheek is a readily made available with Premier League experience under his belt, and I think it could be a really exciting time for those loan players that have been around the world to come back and get their opportunity. Because I know at Chelsea that we develop good young players, but you still need to develop the experience to be readied for a Champions League quality team.
But out of Loftus-Cheek, there's no one else really, though, is there? There's no one else who's got the experience that he's had in a Premier League season. Yes, he's had some injury issues last season. However, he was still a very good player at Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace, and no disrespect to them, to Chelsea is a different level. However, he's gained that invaluable experience, went to the World Cup, and in the game that he played against Belgium in particular, he didn't look out of sorts. He's a good player, a very good player. He's one that could step up, and it's his opportunity now. And under Sarri, like you're saying, he's prone to developing young players, or giving young players an opportunity to play in the team. This may be his moment.
Going back to the goalkeepers and the records being broken, but we know they are a special breed. Do you now accept that they have to have specialist coaches, goalkeepers?
Oh.
Matt, I've got to tell you, this is an argument we had beforehand. Emma doesn't think they should have their own coach.
Well, it's not that I don't believe they should be separated at the level that they are. Every player is of a specialist position, but I think traditionally in football, it's always been that the goalkeepers do their own stuff, and the rest of the team, you know, they go up the other end. And I believe that they have to be together.
It's better that way. We want them as far away as possible.
I've had 20 minutes with him earlier. You're right. I'll leave down the other end.
It's obvious that outfield players don't like us. They don't understand us, and we don't understand them most of the time. Let's be honest.
Has Emma got a point?
There is a degree I have to agree with, in terms of, I feel that at times, and I had this throughout my career as well, that sometimes the goalkeeping, we do get separated too much. We don't integrate enough. And the way that the game has evolved, and Emma and I talked about this earlier on, is that goalkeepers can participate far more in training sessions with outfield players. There's no doubt about it. But when you talk about specific goalkeeping training, when you talk about crossing, when you talk about working on angles, different sort of positioning around the 18-yard box, 6-yard box, that is something that's done through repetition. Just like an outfield player will work on their skills, passing the ball back and forth, and different types of skills, chesting, heading, whatever. As a goalkeeper, you need to work on basic skills, repetitious work.
You're a coach.
Yeah,
you do that stuff, couldn't you?
Absolutely. I can stand there and kick a few balls into the goalkeeper's hands and just have a laugh, throw it back to each other.
We had this discussion as well. So if you're a goalkeeper, right, you could put a goalkeeper in a centre-half position, and I think he would do far better than a centre-half going in goals.
In terms of technically.
And positionally.
And everything
else.
Yeah, technically, in terms of
not
knowing
in
the
pace,
position.
not in all that sort of stuff. Absolutely not.
Should they have specialist coaches, goalkeepers, yes or no?
Yes, for me. They need specialist coaches, and I think you're right. Bridging that gap a little bit more, i.e., inviting them into the possession a bit more, getting them used, because, like you say, it's just a huge part of being a goalkeeper. It's growing more and more to be important, and I think that can only be a good thing. A, to have them a bit closer to the group, and B, so they can get better.
I mean, goalkeeping coaches try and bring that in. You try, but you can only replicate it so far. You need outfield players because they're gonna have different movement. They're gonna have match pace movement. It's going to be a completely different sort of scenario to be involved in.
You're outnumbered 2-1. Votes carried.